Hey, how's it going, man?
What's going on, bud? How you doing?
Oh, it's going. Was trying to get my computer to work right.
I got you. All right, you can hear me okay? I'm good on your end.
Yep, got it.
All right. Let's see here. Come in. So, where are you at right now?
I am at my house in Kentucky.
Okay, so are you from Kentucky originally, or is that just like where you moved to?
Yes. No, it's where I'm from.
What part of Kentucky?
I'm from right New Haven, Kentucky.
Okay, where I've never heard of that. Where is that? Like, is that by Louisville or anything like that?
It's about 40, 50 miles south of Louisville.
Okay, so you're out there, huh?
Yeah, I live out in the sticks, man.
Live out in the sticks, man. So, like, so how did you go from Kentucky? Because obviously you're going back and forth to Nashville, right?
Um, yeah, it's probably an hour and 45 minutes to Nashville.
Okay, so it's not too. You can make it there and back in a day if you had to.
Oh yeah, I do it a lot.
Do it a lot. Yeah, I got you. So, man, look, bud, I appreciate you you jumping on here with me. I appreciate for your people reaching out. Means a lot, and a lot of people, I have a lot of people on here, and I have a rule that I've always stuck with since I started the show, started the podcast, and it's you're not coming on the show, you're not allowed on the show unless I like you. So like people are always like, man, I just, but I mean, if you're on here, Dustin, I really do enjoy your music. When she reached out to me and she was like, hey, let's have Dustin on there, I always ask for, give me some music, give me something. And dude, I was instant like, oh man, I really do enjoy this guy. And that's not no I'm not blowing water up your butt. I'm actually being that sincere.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on too. You know, whenever you're trying to get music out there, everything helps. And I'm new to this podcasting stuff. I've only done a couple, but I kind of enjoy this a lot better than the traditional interview or a call-in interview. I think that's real impersonal. And,
Yeah,
kind of dig the whole podcast vibe, how to get stuff across. And I appreciate you listening to the music, taking time out to talk to me.
absolutely, man. I don't really consider my show an interview show. Um, I just like to get you on here and just chat. Which if you're friends with each other, you're going to ask your friends questions. You know what I mean? And I like to have that vibe on here, like because Dustin, your fan base, however big or however small it may be, it doesn't matter. But if they're loyal to Dustin Collins, man, they're gonna be watching you and listening to everything that you do for everything you do. So like they've probably heard the same 15 stories that you tell every interview.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If they followed me for any amount of
And it's the
time,
worst.
they're
And
gonna.
it's the worst because I'm like, man, I'm a big Jackass fan. I love the Jackass movies, and I love all that. So I've been watching some interviews with the Jackass guys, and I'm like, these people do not prepare before asking these guys a question because it's like, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? I'm like, if you go back to like 2 months ago, they asked you the same shit. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
people
It's the
and
same same bullshit.
the same stuff every time, and it's like I can't stand people that prepare questions. I mean, I have a tunnel. I know where I'm going to go and where I'm going to end up, but I'm not going to be like, hey, so where were you born? What was it like?
Yeah,
Because I already know that if I've watched your interviews studying you. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So speaking of that, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Nelson County, Kentucky, out in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, that's the only way to describe it. Bourbon country, man. Bourbon country.
So you're kind of like me out in BFE. Don't really.
Yeah.
It's one of those, you know, I moved somewhat of a lot when I was, younger. and it's crazy because I moved to this one place in town, and that's where I call my home there, because I lived my adolescent years to, halfway through high school. And it was one of those blink and you miss it towns. Like, there's no sign that says welcome to, you're on Highway 13 and you're going straight, and soon you're going to end up in another town. You're never going to know it existed. And it's,
just a gas station and a stoplight.
there's not even a stoplight, bro. Just one little bitty gas station that is like expensive as crap.
That's town. They kind of do. They don't even have credit card machines in there. I was in this town, and the dude said, I was trying to pay with my debit card. He's like, it's cash only. And I was like, what do you mean it's cash only? I was like, how do you get, and he was like, well, I'm not paying the government the 13 extra cents that it costs to run a credit card machine. I was like,
it's funny because,
all right.
Growing up in a small town, like, you and I did, it's funny because I'm sure growing up was very similar. Every kid back when I was growing up in the early 2000s, late 90s, if you had $1 in your pocket, you were rich. Like, money, cash was everything. Now, my little cousin would be like, I'll give you $4. Nah, just cash app it to my mom. And I'm like, I would get my mouth washed out with soap for using the word cash app back in the day,
It's wild how things are different now. We were talking about, last night I was with some friends, and we was talking about, $9.99 you could get a full tank of gas and a whole thing of Mountain Dew, and you're off for the whole weekend. You're ready to roll. And now, you look at it, I think $10 wouldn't even get me off fuel light.
So are you that type of person? You mentioned get you off the fuel light. Are you one of those type of people that wait till you have like 6 miles in your gas to get more gas?
I am not.
It's okay. It's okay. You can admit it.
Certain other people that live in this house, I'm not going to mention her name, but she likes to return the car on the fuel light.
Well, see, I look at it this way. If I'm borrowing my mom's car or whatever, it's totally different, I think. But if I was borrowing your car or your truck, Dustin, whichever, I would return it. If it had half a tank of gas, I would put maybe a little bit more over half a tank when I returned it. Common sense.
That's fair.
Common sense. But now it's here, and it's like, I always have to tell my mom or tell whoever else is in the house. And I'm like, hey, look, what if there's an emergency and we have to get to wherever, and you have
quickly,
and you have 12 miles in the gas? We're not going nowhere quickly. Like, if somebody was knocking on heaven's door, you're not going to get there like you want to, and it always irritates me. It's like, put a little bit of gas in at least 50 miles, at least.
Yeah, at least to get to a good gas station.
So what was the and I'm pretty sure you probably asked this million times, but what was the biggest difference between going from Nashville, Tennessee to your little hometown of Kentucky? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's an abundance of different things, but what was the one thing that stood out?
The best, I don't know, but I can tell you the best thing about being in Nashville as opposed to here. We have a Subway to eat. That's it. That's all we have to eat is Subway here.
Really?
So when you go to Nashville, I mean, the restaurants are amazing, and just having everything you could possibly need, like right at your fingertips, of being able to go get it. And I lived in Nashville for a long time before I came back. COVID kind of brought me back home, to where we wasn't working very much, and I was just like, I'll just drive there if I need to be there. And then everybody's Skyping and doing all these e-meets and stuff, and I was like, no, why do I need to be out here in the middle of the traffic all the time? So kind of packed it up, and now I'm like, there's no Uber Eats here. So some of the things that were kind of a luxury in Nashville to have, you want to be lazy on Sunday and order Hooters to your house, you can do it. But here, you can have a Subway sandwich.
Or drive to the next town 50 miles away and go get a burger or something.
Well, I think Bardstown's
Okay.
15 miles from here, but whenever you're hungry and you're lazy, you're not driving 15 miles.
Right, right. That was my point. That was my point.
Yeah, you're just not going to do it. I don't care. 20 minutes, that's too far. Yes, around here, it's 20 minutes is deep. We ain't going that far.
So you must be making pretty good as an independent artist to move from Nashville back to your hometown and still be doing what you're doing. Because a lot of people that are in the independent reign, you know, they're staying in Nashville until they make it.
Well, I'm lucky to have my team, and you know, the whole team's Nashville based, and they take care of a lot of things for me that I used to have to do myself. And I've pretty much got my writing partners down, the people that I write with, and you know, I do a lot of the writing myself. So I mean, it's not that I didn't feel like that there was anything that I needed to be down there for, other than to pay a ridiculously high rent.
Right.
That it was unnecessary. And I was like, you know, I could save a whole lot of money by being here and just driving down to town when I needed to be there. And you know, I'm a country boy. I don't want, you know, food aside, I love being home and being in the country and being able to, you know, walk out and see people that I've known my whole life.
You know,
it's just fairly comforting to me.
You know, it's, I'm pretty sure it's astonishing to you, but like, I'm doing everything on my own. I'm booking, I'm editing. It's just, you know, you're not making enough to pay the damn bills, let alone hire somebody. So I want to know from your personal firsthand account, what was it like when you were able to afford these people and you're like, wow, now I can breathe easily and know that somebody else is going to book me a show. You know, you're not really, you're still hustling, but you're not as hustling as much as you were.
Well, it's still new, so I'm not quite. Okay. I'm still not quite like that. I mean, our whole team is this album. You know, this just started with this album, and
oh, really? Okay.
We've not even really got into the nuts and bolts of the things that I'm gonna have to do, because it's been nice to be home, but you know, we're about to start a radio tour, and I was talking to my radio guy, and he was like, "This is gonna be the hardest thing you've ever done," and then I read this Washington Post article that this is the hardest thing country artists have to do. And then he's like, yeah, you're gonna be gone for he said, we're gonna hit 50 radio stations in 45 days. And I'm like, some don't add up here. So well, he's like, yeah, we're getting on a plane and getting off a plane and going someplace else.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the hours, because you have to be at a radio station sometimes at 4:00 in the morning, and your voice has to be ready to sing at 4:30, and then you're going to be out of there by 4:45. Hop on the next train at 6, with the plane at 6, go to another one, be there by 8:30. I feel for everybody that has to do radio tours, but I think it's part of, if you're not fully blessed and you just get thrown into this thing and you're just an A-lister immediately, this is the hardest thing a musician has to do.
Well, I think the radio tours, I mean, you expect these people, like you said, you expect these people to have a working relationship with you and invest, you know, because that's what a program director does is invest. I mean, he invests himself into your career by playing your song, because, you know, a lot of these radio stations have 40 spots, maybe 50 on a good day. And, you know, those are the hardest spots in the world to get. You know, you're essentially trying to take a spot from somebody like Jason Aldean or something, and you want them to play your song instead. And if you're not willing to get up and go meet these people and talk to them firsthand or sit and spend some time with them, why would they ever do you any kind of favor or play your music?
You know, I've had a lot of guests on here, and you're one of the very few that kind of has their head wrapped around and they know what the industry is about. Not speaking, you know, just in general. And I had this one person on a long time ago. The dude's not even doing it anymore. And I realized, because you're not fit for it, because I would ask him, you know, he had mentioned why he wasn't putting out an album on like, it was like a certain day of the month. And I said, well, why aren't you putting it out then? And why are you putting it out there? Because he had just come up with excuses. And his answer was, oh, that's because Luke Bryan's putting out an album and so is Blake Shelton. And I don't want to compete against my heroes. And I said, well, you're in the wrong damn business, buddy, because this is all about competition, bro. So, and then now he's like not even doing it anymore. And I'm like, I called it. And it's crazy because these people, they're out there doing because they love to hear music on the radio and they love to sing and they want to do it. They just don't understand the hard work that goes into it.
I mean, there's a lot of people that really want to do this. I mean, even in Nashville, I mean, you see there's a bus leaving Nashville
Yeah.
every day with somebody's broken dreams and guitar cases on it, and it really is a full-time job if you want to get in and play music, because your fans see how hard you work, and really without them there is no job.
Right.
And without making good music and putting the work into it, you're not going to make those fans. They're not even, they're never going to hear of you. So, putting in all the work just to get to go to work, you got to put in a lot of work just to go to work. And that's what I thought being an independent artist was about, was you working your ass off so you can work your ass off some more.
it's that's a good point, because I use Lauren Elena. She has a song from her first album. It was called 3. And I think she speaks the truth perfectly. She was missing all these things. She was like 6 years of missing home for only 3 minutes on the radio. And where is that 3 minutes going to take you? It doesn't matter. But I'm here for 3 minutes on the radio, and it's still not getting me anywhere. So I'm still going to have to miss 6 more years for another 3 minutes. And it's perfectly written, and that's a perfect Nashville song for anybody that wants to be in it.
I don't have to check it out. It sounds like something I'd like.
Yeah. All right. So you grew up in Kentucky, small town BFE, Kentucky. What's next? When do you realize that you want to be a country singer, or just a singer in general?
Man, I had joined the Army, and I was a mechanic in the Army. And after I got out of the military, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
At all. And my dad was like, why don't you go play guitar in Nashville? And I think I was working at Jim Beam I was rolling whiskey barrels.
Mm-hmm.
Which so they fill them up, and you put them in a warehouse, and these things are like 700 pounds when they're full. So the only way to get them around is roll them. And I hated that. That was a terrible job. I mean, it was not a terrible job. It's a great job for people that want to do it. I did not want to do it. And my dad was like, why don't you just go to Nashville and play music? I was like, okay, Dad, I'll just pack up all my crap and move to Nashville. And then I sat and thought about it a couple of days, and I packed up all my crap and I just went to Nashville. I think my first job down there, I was working at Tootsie's. And just being around all the music and all the time, and getting in there and playing and playing and playing, it got real difficult for me to do. And I'm the kind of person that you're not going to tell me no, and I'm not getting spit out by Nashville. I'll leave this town when I'm good and damn ready to leave.
Okay. What do you mean it was getting difficult for you to play music?
Well, I think it's where, you don't make very much money. You're living in a double wide with 4 other dudes that aren't making much money. It's, the formative years of Nashville wasn't awesome. If I had a lot of good times back then and met some people that I'll never forget in my life, and that'll be friends of mine until the day I die. But, to say that we suffered for our art was beyond comparison, because we were down there like splitting up ramen noodle packages, and then like, here, you can take half, because we only made $60 in tips and we had to pay $20 in parking. Yeah. And it was.
So take me back to before you joined the military. What was life like at home?
I was surrounded by music. I mean, my uncles played music. My dad played music. My mom sings. and it's just a small town place. We didn't go a whole lot of places growing up. Like there wasn't very many vacations or stuff like that. So what we did for fun is, there's people would come over to the house and they'd light a fire and everybody play guitars around the fire. And that was basically my whole life growing up. It is basically revolved around drinking beer and playing guitar.
So you joined the military. Why? Was it something you felt you needed to do, or was it just you didn't really have another choice?
I was pissed off at school.
Okay.
I was ready for a change and to get out of here and see a little bit of the world and just try to get, I guess, that spot when you're 17 and you hate everything, no matter how good it might be. Because looking back now, I had a wonderful, awesome childhood, but probably go back and ask that kid, he would have told you, screw this town. I'm trying to get out of here.
It's like little kids. I hear them all the time, and they're like, "I can't wait till I'm old, and I'm able to pay my own bills." And I'm looking at myself. I'm like, I wish I could go back to when I was 12 or 13 because I was living the life. You didn't have a care. You didn't know mom and daddy were struggling to pay the bills. They never showed it.
Eating mama's hot pockets up, and
Yeah, and they're like, she goes, "You ate another one? That's the last one we have for the week. We're gonna buy more." It's that simple, but it's not that simple, and then you realize it when you're
Why
damn
are all the
grown.
mountains on?
Hey, we didn't have Mountain Dew growing up. We had Mountain Lightning. We had the 88 cents.
Dr. Thunder, boys.
Dr. Thunder.
Dr. Thunder.
That gets me to another conversation because I have a conversation with one of my good friends, Eric, and I'm always chatting to him. And, I was like, growing up, and still today, because I think was growing up, we never bought name brand food or name brand anything. It was usually the Piggly Wiggly brand or the Walmart brand. And now I'm the same way because I will go, and if I buy like name brand cereal, to me, it does not taste the same than the cheap ass brand of cereal, because it's
extra bougie doing it too. You're in there like, oh, look at you with the Kraft macaroni.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, this 78-cent macaroni is actually pretty good if you're actually going to try it. But,
Yeah, exactly.
So you're the same way today where you're just like, you could probably afford stuff that you couldn't afford when you were little, but you're just so humble that you're not going to.
I think it's just habit at this point.
Right.
What I'm used to going to get at the grocery, I know where it's at, and I don't know, I grab the same thing every time, and I might want to try something new, and I will go to the grocery store, and I hate being in there so bad that I will literally not look at my list. I will just go in there and get the same thing I bought last time and throw it in the cart. So, if I was eating the IGA brand macaroni, that's what's going in the cart.
Yeah.
And I've been on a diet here the last little while, so I've been eating a whole bunch of tuna fish and kind of staying off the carbs a little bit. So there hasn't been much macaroni in my life in a while, and that's my favorite food of all time is macaroni and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese, man.
Yeah.
What a weird favorite food, huh?
I know it's just noodles and cheese, but
right.
God, I love it.
Now, do you prefer the boxed macaroni or homemade macaroni, or does it really matter? Because it's your favorite food, so there has to be a preference.
My favorite's the Velveeta shells.
Okay. It's not powdered cheese. It's actually cheese in a
Velveeta squeezed cheese in it.
It's not that cheap ass powdered nasty stuff. It's the actual cheese in the aluminum foil. that's probably not really cheese.
Right off the brick.
So you joined the military. How many years do? You do 4 years?
I did 4.
So you do your 4 years, you're out, 21, 22 years old. Don't know what to do. Dad says, hey, just go to Nashville. You love playing guitar. Go be a singer. What happens? What's the very next thing because you'd mentioned that you were just tired of doing the Nashville thing. What happened after that made you stay?
Well, I wasn't going to let Nashville beat me. And I mean, it eventually whipped my ass. And it was not the first time I moved to Nashville, because I came home that first time with my tail tucked between my legs. As I had a manager and a writing deal and it all fell apart, you know, and I was fairly discouraged about everything. And my manager was like, "You just don't sing that good." And I was like, "What the hell is that supposed to mean? I don't sing that good." And he said, "Man, if I was you, I'd go back home and get you a little band. And, if you want to do this, work on it." And he said, "Write your songs, develop your songs, go get a fan base. Let's go out there and play music for folks." And he said, "Instead of coming down here," he said, "you're not ready for this." He said, "Not really." And I at the time was real pissed off about it, but it's the best advice I ever got. And I came back home and I did exactly what he told me to. I found some boys that I like to play with. They like to play with me, and we just started banging it out at the local bars, playing. I mean, some god awful places we've played, and probably played some really bad sets of music too in between. But after years of knocking it out and grinding it, led to that very first record that I did, and that's when it all took off. When the first time I heard my songs recorded, and a local radio station, Q1031, played one of my songs on the radio, and that it was over, hooked. Like, I'm in this to win it. I heard it on the radio one time. I was like, I'm gonna have my songs on the radio.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, and a lot of people are doing that. But I was listening. Kid Rock was kind of the same way, but Kid Rock had a weird story, man. Kid Rock, when he first started out, he released Grit Sandwiches for Breakfast, and he had this song on there. It was called Yodeling in the South, and the song is about him giving oral pleasure to a lady. All these innuendos, right? Well, they released it to radio, and the FDA fines the radio station, Kid Rock, everybody in the camp, because they're like, "Dude, this shit is rough. You can't play this on radio." Well, of course, you Kid Rock, and of course, he's not going to give up. So he kept going, and he did exactly what you did. Built the fan base, kept it going. And the time Cocky or Devil Without a Cause came out, he was like the biggest thing in the world because his fan base kind of pushed him to be who he is today. And you see that a lot with Cody Johnson and Tyler Childers and stuff like that. And it's crazy how it works, because you could not do that back in the day. I don't think you could do that back in the 50s or the 60s.
No, without the internet. Without the internet,
right?
Because I mean, we talk about modes of discovery all the time, and because essentially, as an independent artist, you are your record label.
Yeah.
And what makes successful independent artists are the ones that do the research and learn the business. I mean, you can't be a plumber if you don't know nothing about pipes. So
right,
so you gotta get in there and actually do the research and do the work and learn about how do people even discover your music in the first place. Okay, everybody knows Spotify playlist or the radio. How do you get on a Spotify list or the radio? How do you get on any of these things? And you think we're in a time right now where there is an extraordinary amount of music coming out every day, that are hitting DSPs all over the place. And I read somewhere like only 10% of all music goes above 50,000 streams on a streaming platform, as opposed to all these people that are putting out music. And for me, I find that super interesting to go in and deep dive and say, why are these artists, in that percentile that are actually achieving, be it be very, very modest success, but they're doing it, they're in the top 20% of all music released in one day, and you're talking millions and millions of songs.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating for me to. Sorry, I go off on random tangents.
That's what this
about
That's what this is about. That's what it's about.
I just think that the industry with the internet and the way music is moving now, even 20 years, 20 years ago, we barely had Facebook and we were still, Tom's buddy on MySpace.
I wonder, because I'm this way, when, you're growing up middle of nowhere, nobody knows where you're at. You grow up struggling in Nashville, trying to make it. Do you not look down upon, but do you ever get jealous of kids that are coming up and you realize that they come from extreme wealth, or their parent was some type of celebrity, and it's like they automatically have an in? Like, because I do that all the time, and I'm like, this pisses me off because I've been doing this for 5 years. I'm just now starting to make an impact. And then look at this guy, this motherfucker come over here because his dad's worth $2 million, and all of a sudden he has
He's kind of at the same level as you are starting out, and you've worked your ass off to get
right. And it just, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that happens a lot in the music industry. I mean, I know it does, but did that ever just hit you where you're just like, oh man, I don't know how much longer I can do this?
When I was younger, that kind of stuff pissed me off like quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I guess it's jealousy. That's all it is jealousy. And I had a buddy of mine that's my business partner now. He said, anybody can hit the genetic lottery and end up, being, being a millionaire's kid or something like that, where they have the means that are necessary. And all the time, it doesn't mean that they're less talented, that they don't belong to be there.
Right.
And you got to look at it that way, that, a lot of these kids, whether the amount of money they had to start their own business, they're talented folks too and worked hard. And my partner, he said, it sucks that you have to do it this way, and it sucks. He said, but you're here now and you gutted it out. He said, right. So there's no reason to be jealous of anybody. He said, the more time you spend thinking about other people is time you're not spending thinking about yourself. And that's something that I took to heart and was like, if I don't worry about these folks and I dive down into my stuff, I'm just going to get better and worry, kind of worry about my own deal and don't worry about nobody else's deal. Cause the grass may not be greener on the other side. Because I've seen a lot of kids come to town with a lot of money for music videos and fancy guitars, fancy equipment, and I've seen those same guys and ladies leave town.
It's
empty.
It's funny because it's a double negative on both ends, because everybody comes from a dark place. Everybody has something dark in their life. Doesn't matter who they are. And it's because you can look at, and I'm going to give you two comparisons here, guys. If you're those that are listening, it's when you come in and you've come from nothing and you have nothing. It doesn't matter if you're in a different town. You grew up with nothing, so you're used to having nothing, and you're not going to give up, because it's like, I'm pushing to having something. But then there's always that feeling of, you know what? I've struggled my entire life. I'm okay struggling till I die, just because it's a comfort zone.
Yeah, I had the same conversation with my manager the other day. We were talking about this radio tour, and he's like, a lot of these shows you're going to play aren't going to be paying. He said, you're going to take a kind of a financial hit on your paycheck. I said, who's making money? I was like, well, when did this money thing start? I'm used to this. I was like, you guys are the ones going to have a financial hit. It's not me. I was like, because I wasn't getting paid.
Yeah. Double negative.
Yeah, what was that?
The other double negative on the side
that movie, Meet the Millers. Did you ever see that?
What was it?
He's like, that movie, Meet the Millers. He's like, he got $5,000 to do this thing. He was like, I'll give you 2,000. She was like, what, you're giving him 2,000? He was like, what, y'all are getting paid?
Yeah, it was.
That's the joke of the music industry. There is
the pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's the pyramid scheme. The artists are simply the last people to get paid.
Right. And the double negative on the people that come in with money and from people that parents from money, the same thing happens with them. It's like, okay, I have to prove myself that I'm not just Billy Madison's kid. I have to prove that I'm my own person. But then there's also that negative of, I have money. I'm going to have money till I die. I can just give up and go home and still live my extraordinary life. And it's crazy to think that both sides of being poor and having money, they all meet the same in the middle. They all have the same thoughts.
Somewhere in the middle, it's all it all just, and I don't think that's exclusive to music. I mean, it's
everywhere.
And the music industry is just it's a different industry altogether. It's the glitz and glam. It's everybody wants to be a rock star. It's the hardest thing in the entire world to try to actually pull off. And you got dumbasses like me that get up every single day and keep writing these songs, because essentially you're in the business of making people like you. And my whole life growing over, but you get these old guys, well, I don't care what anybody thinks about me, I just go to work. Your job as a musician is to care what people think about you and what you do, and everything you do is under a microscope.
Yeah.
If you play bad songs, nobody's going to like you. If you don't work on your songwriting, I don't know. I've heard some pretty rough songs that people like, but that's personal taste.
It's
I think.
Go ahead.
In the new model of music business is, no matter what you do or how you do it, you're going to find people out there that like what you do. Because the internet's just so big and the world's so big and so open now that, if you want to play some kind of, Panamanian, flute music, you're going to find somebody that wants to listen to that, and it doesn't really matter that these things, these preconceived notions about what's acceptable as a musician. And that's where I think you start really seeing the Tyler Childerses and the Cody Johnsons, that aren't subscribing to what the major music industry is telling you to do. They just kind of went and did what they wanted to do, and they found that audience. And I think that's the best thing about the music industry is, no matter what happens now, whether you could be as big as you want to be, as long as you keep working.
Yeah. You mentioned that you just have these people living their regular lives, working at McDonald's, and they're happy. I've never been that person. Like, I was working at Walmart, and I was like, this is just for a certain amount of time. And then once I realized I was starting to get comfortable with it, I stopped, and then I went and worked somewhere else, and I started getting comfortable. And I was like, I don't want this as a normal life. You have to have people that work one, but I'm not going to be one of those people, because that's not success to me. A lot of people's success is, I want to have a job, put a roof over my family. I want to have a wife. I want to have kids. I want to have a husband. I want to have kids. That's fine. That's just not my side of success. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. That's and life's weird, man. I can never even, I think about some of my own personal friends that hate their job and hate what they do.
Yeah.
And they go do it day in and day out. And I just don't understand. I can't fathom to understand. I know that there's a physical need for money.
Yeah.
You have to have money to pay your bills, but if somebody hates, you're going to spend a quarter of your life at this place working, 1/4 of your entire life. and this is just me personally, I don't understand the drive, what makes somebody get up and go do that every day. And I am incredibly blessed and lucky to get to do what I do for a living.
Mhm.
But there was a whole lot of work and struggle that went in to getting to do that. I just, if I had to go do, something else, I would do it. But like you said, it would just be a stone to get back to where the thing that I wanted to do. And that's just kind of, and with COVID, when that happened and everybody shut down, and they shut down live music, and they shut down basically everything. Just like me, there was a whole lot of us terrified that, like, what are we going to do now? We're going to be broke. And, so I strapped up on some concrete boots and,
Yeah.
Grabbed a rake, and I went out and poured concrete. I went out and did odd jobs. I went and worked my tail off until it was time for me to go back to my job.
Yeah.
And do what I do. But like you said, there's, the people that day in and day out just go to a place they hate. That's something I'll never get.
And that's something I won't do. That's something I will not. My dad's the same way. He's like, he loved it for a while, and then he just got comfortable with it, and it just got old. And he's like, I used to love getting up because he builds bridges. He puts the columns on the bottom of the on the rivers and stuff like that. He's like, I used to love it. Now it's just boring. Now it's the same shit. I hate it. And I'm like, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, that's a pretty cool job, though.
Hey, man, I seen that somebody come in. Do you need
yeah.
Do you need a second? I'll give you a second.
Oh, no.
Okay.
You're fine.
Yeah, but I wonder, this leads to a question for you, Dustin, is what's the worst job you've ever had prior to music, and what's the best job you ever had besides music?
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Now we're into some stuff here. Worst job, I worked as a corrections officer for a very short amount of time because there was a prison close to where I live. It's not even there anymore, thank God. But they were hiring people on at like $16 an hour, and I was like, yeah, I was like, money.
Yeah.
I got over there, and needless to say, I did not want to be a grown-up babysitter. And I was done with that fairly quickly. I did not enjoy the world of corrections. Like, I don't like being told what to do, so I definitely don't want to sit and tell grown folk what they need to be doing. And these are obviously people that aren't very good at being told what to do in the first place, or they wouldn't be in there.
Right.
And I hated it. I hated it immediately. The best job I've had, other than this is something I still do. I love consulting. This is music. It's, I guess, outside the music industry. So I love consulting other folks about helping them get their careers on track, and showing the things that I've learned, helping younger artists. Just throwing some experience on them and watching what they do with whatever I've told them to do. That's something that I still do. And I don't even charge that much money for it. It's just enough for my time to help you. There's so many kids that come in, don't even know how to set up a social media page.
Yeah.
Which, for music, and there's just a lot of information that I've had to claw to get that if you help somebody else out, a very talented kid from, where I'm from, no telling what they might do with it in 10, 15 years. They might be the one that gets the big record deal and has 10 number one hits, and then I helped them and I get free tickets. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
All right, man. So as we kind of wind down here, we've been going for almost an hour. I want to do something.
Time flies in good conversation, man.
Time flies in the conversation. See, that's what I want. I want someone that's going to be like, wow, we've already done an hour, instead of going, man, that was a long hour. You know what I mean? So that's my job, and I try to do it. So, but what I want to do,
I feel like it'd be super weird that if he was talking to somebody and they just like if you had to pull information out of them,
dude.
like if they want to be on your podcast to promote something and you're just kind of staring at them.
No, dude, there was this one guy, no name going to be mentioned. There was this one guy, and he was, hey man, I want to do your show. I want to do your show and promote my stuff. He was okay. You know, he wasn't the best. And I was like, man, I don't really know. I'm kind of booked. I'm this and that. He goes, just 15 minutes is all I need. 15 minutes. I said, okay. Because I can always not air it if it wasn't good or whatever. So I said, okay. I said, so tell me about this new song you got. Well, it just come out of my head and I wrote it. I said, okay. Do you have any plans for any new music? No, not right now. I'm just doing this album. What the fuck did you want to come on this show for, bro? You're not telling me anything. You're not doing anything. So I'm lucky to get people, you know, like you that just love to talk and have a conversation because it just makes time go, like you said, fly very quickly instead of just I got to cut it off at 10 minutes because if not, I'm gonna.
Then you can do your pitch at the end.
Then you do your pitch at the end because if it keeps going any longer, I'm gonna snap somebody's ankle here, and I can't do yours. So, all right, this is called. I'm gonna do quick fire. It's I'm gonna do the first question that pops in my head. You give me the first answer that pops in your head. And if you have any questions for me, the same way, you just stop me and ask me.
All right.
What is your favorite album of all time? If you have one album to listen to, you're stuck on a desert island by yourself. And there somehow happens to be a CD player there or a record player. What's that one album you're going to bring and listen to?
Tesla, 5-man acoustic jam for sure.
Favorite artist of all time? Just
Tracy
one.
Lawrence.
Tracy Lawrence. With those alibis. You got alibis, man?
Oh, that. And Line Eyes.
Line Eyes.
I love Tracy Lawrence, man. He's fire. Everything he's got's fire.
What is one scene from a movie that is your favorite line from any type of movie?
Oh, it's definitely got to be Joe Dirt, where the Kid Rock's line in it, and he said, "Ain't nobody wants you around here, Dirt." I don't know. I love that whole movie.
No, that movie. Have you seen the second one?
They should have just not done it. They should have just left that. They should.
That was one of those where I regret. Like, I love movies so much. I'm a music nerd and a movie nerd. I know everything about movies, everything about music, and it's crazy to see. Like Joe Dirt 2 was a good one where it's like, dude, this is proof that after so many years, you should not make a sequel. Like you could tell they were doing that movie for money. I'll be honest with you. They were doing it for money. I'm sorry. They had to. It was terrible. No way. David Spade signed off to do that shit.
Man, the only movie that I think that pulled it off after that many years was Super Troopers. When they did Super Troopers 2, I thought that was pretty funny.
You know, I've never seen Super Troopers, so I can't really say for myself. Never seen the first one. Never seen it.
I mean, you know, they all act in a whole bunch of movies together, that whole group,
right.
Like a whole group of actors or whatever. So I feel like no matter what they did, you know, it was going to be funny. So,
No, my favorite line from a movie that I quote all the time for just no reason is one of my favorite movies. For some reason, and don't ask me, is Meet the Parents, the one with Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro. And the funniest scene for me in that movie is when they're all sitting down for dinner for the first time, when Ben Stiller and his girlfriend come in to meet her parents, and they're sitting there and they were talking about a cat. And he goes, Ben Stiller makes up this story, and he's like, I remember when I grew up in a barn and we'd come in there and the little kitten couldn't get no milk from the mother. So I took the nipple I got a little saucer and I milked the thing. And he goes, Robert De Niro looks at it, he goes, Greg, you can milk a cat? Yes, you can milk anything with nipples. I find that so funny for some reason.
De Niro, when he said, I've got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
You milk me? Oh, man. Those are some of the most funniest. And Ben Stiller is one of my all-time favorite actors. He's hilarious in everything he does.
My favorite Ben Stiller movie is Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, dude. There's no way they can make that movie today.
No, God, no. Oh man, there was so much.
Do you think they could? Do you think they could have made it back when they made it? Like, I don't think it was allowed to be made when they made it.
No, they shouldn't have made it then. But I don't know. I don't know. People might not even buy my record now because I like the movie because it was hilarious, and I don't care.
And
I don't care who knows it. Tropic Thunder was funny, and if you don't like it,
and I'm going to say this right now: the best black character was ever portrayed by a white man, Robert Downey Jr. Oh man,
oh my God,
that movie, and it doesn't even look like Robert Downey Jr. If you think about it, he really looks and sounds like a black guy, and I'm like, that's the greatest portrayal of a black guy from a black guy I've ever seen in my life.
I thought, and there was backlash over that because he was making fun of people getting parts that they shouldn't be getting. That was the whole joke.
The whole point of it
actually does that stuff.
The whole point is a spoof. It's a spoof. It's making fun of, what he was basically doing was Ben Stiller took this movie and he was basically making fun of the people that made fun of blackface. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that's what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Robert Downey Jr. was not. He was not playing
anybody
blackface.
that said anything that was outraged at Tropic Thunder. I was like, you obviously didn't watch the movie.
It's like, okay, if you're gonna be mad at that, why don't you be mad at Kung Fu Panda because Jack Black's not Chinese?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
everybody's mad. Everybody's mad about it.
I hate cancel culture. I hate cancel culture. I hate it so much because it doesn't matter if you're not even on the spectrum of cancel culture. You have to be easy of what you say nowadays, no matter what platform you're on, because it's ooh. And I don't even want to get into that conversation, which it's just crazy. I hate cancel culture. I can't stand it.
I mean, I think it's ruining art completely. Comedy, podcast.
I think comedy. You can take movies out of it because sure, there's some movies that shouldn't be made, and even though it's historical, accuracy, whichever. But I think you have to take comedy out of it because a lot of the point of a comedy is to use these slurs and to make not racial slurs. Don't think that, but to make these slurs and to say retard. Say these because you can't. You have to take a certain comedy element, and I do stand up, so I'm kind of a little bit knowledgeable. But you have to take these.
You know exactly what I was saying with comedy is if you can't do that, I mean, you're just kind of sitting in a room talking.
That's like I don't know if you've seen Dave Chappelle. His newest special on Netflix.
Oh, I love it.
He opens up. This guy opens up and says, y'all about to cancel me right now. I'm not going to be on Netflix for the next 3 or 4 years, but here's what I got to say. And I was like, whoa. I was like, this guy has some nads on it, but he doesn't care. He's Dave Chappelle. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine back in the day, if you would have if you would have told Eddie Murphy back in the day, you can't say this.
Yeah.
Like back in the 80s, like red jumpsuit Eddie Murphy.
Right. Yeah, Eddie Murphy Raw, like that is that. Eddie Murphy Raw is one of the funniest things, and it's I compare, and I don't compare myself to a black person, but I was having a conversation with a black comedian on here, and I said, people that grew up in the South kind of had the same relationship as black people have with their parents. Like Eddie Murphy had a joke on Eddie Murphy Raw, and it was. He wanted McDonald's, And his mom said, we have McDonald's at the house. And of course, if you're 6, you're believing, wow, we got McDonald's at the house. And so she goes, she makes him a sandwich or a hamburger, and the hamburger's this thick, homemade patty, and she puts it on sandwich bread with cheese. And he's like, but I compare that because we do that all the time. That's give up bread, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Dustin, look, man, I appreciate your time on here. Why don't you go ahead and talk about this new album you got coming out later?
Yeah, man. We've been working on it through the pandemic. I mean, a lot of great songs. We've been got to work with Buddy Cannon, who's legendary
Chesney.
producer on
Right.
it. Yeah, he's worked with Chesney and Willie Nelson and all these guys. And I mean, he made the album pop. He did a great job working with me and helping me to become a better musician. And some of the writers on here, Will Rambo, we got he wrote quite a bit on it. I got Eldon Huff came on. Ashton Shepherd did a duet with me on the record, and she's fantastic. If you have heard her music, awesome. If you haven't, you got to check her out too. We did a duet on this, and it's the first duet I've ever done, and it's just an awesome song. More incredible. Brett Eldridge, I think, has a song on here on my record, and it's a killer tune too. I mean, that guy's way talented. When I got the demo to it, I was floored and was like, "Oh my God, how am I going to sing this song?" I was like, Brett Eldridge is a little intimidating to listen to a demo of, and you're expected to go in and do that song just as good as the demo. And I can't thank everybody on this record that's come together and helped me, put up my first full length album together. And it's been such a process, and I can't wait for people to get to hear it. And, I always say, hit me up on my socials, /Dustin Collins Music. But once this record comes out here in the next couple of months, I really do want to hear from everybody out there. If you get a chance to listen to it, good or bad, hit us up on our socials and talk to us and let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to hear from us in the future. Just without interacting with the folks out there, we don't know if we're doing a good job. We're just writing what we feel and playing what we like. And we want to know what you guys and what the fans think about it. We want to know, hey, did this song that I absolutely love, did you guys think it was completely garbage? and sometimes that happens. You get you get stuck on something you really like, and it might not be the awesomest song on the record. And then when you get something like what we've come up with, every song on this record is my favorite song that I've ever done. And I've poured a lot of sweat and tears into getting it ready for people to listen to. And I think that's why it's taken me a year and a half to do the thing, because I've just, every detail of this record is ingrained in who I am. And so yeah, album comes out this summer, guys.
Is there an actual date, or are you just not sure yet? You just know it's coming this summer?
We're going to have a single out here at the end of February.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's going to be the last week of February or the first week of March, okay, but we will have the first single out. And from what I've been told, is somewhere around August, September.
Got you.
Late summer, early fall, we will drop the whole album.
Well, let me tell you what, Dustin. Once the album comes out, I'll promote it on here, and I'll also get you back on. Get with your people, get you back on, and we'll talk exclusively the album. How about that?
Oh man, that would be great. I'll really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, Dustin. Look, I appreciate your hour that you've given me. I'm really gracious for it.
I'm grateful for you having me, man.
All right, man. Thanks to Dano Seasoning for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. And Dustin, thanks, and have a good one.
You too, man.
All right. Appreciate it, bro. See you later.
See ya.